Who's in the doghouse this week? Andrew Stacey of Aviva Insurance. And we get talking about the truck driver shortage, the effects of COVID as they affected the safety people from the insurance industry. And we also talk about the environmental challenges that Calgary is having at the moment. All right, Andrew from Calgary, Alberta joins us this week. Welcome to the doghouse.
Yes, the smoky Calgary, Alberta.
Okay, so we're talking about environmental change right now. That was my last interview with Ron Zima, but are you getting smoke in Calgary?
This morning, actually taking my dogs out for a walk, the smoke is actually lying on the ground. So the street lights are on. It's you can just smell it. And so we're changing filters in the furnace probably every 3 weeks now at this point. It's so densely inside the city, you cannot see the predominant downtown core. And yesterday, the last day of our stampede, they were going to have some F-18 flyovers from the Canadian military that they had to cancel because of the low ceiling and the smoke.
Sorry, I've become I've become much more aware of our environment recently. And I really believe I think the last I read, 317 wildfires in Canada out in Alberta, BC. And of course, a great number of deaths, both from the wildfires and the heat. And most of it is because we're treating our planet like a garbage dump.
Well, I can say the heat has definitely been unprecedented out here as we're coming out of COVID. Of course, in my position, that means I'm going to be out traveling and seeing the world a little bit more now. And I was up north of Edmonton by about 6 hours, and it was 46 degrees that far north.
Yeah, that's a long way north. Now, Andrew.
Yeah.
Tell us, Who in the heck are you?
Well, my name's Andrew Stacey. I'm a National Fleet Safety Loss Control Specialist with Aviva. I'm just 30 years into the industry now, maybe 31. I started back a long time ago, second generation, into the transportation industry. I am from Calgary, born and raised, Calgary, Alberta. I did live out in Ontario for about 14 years, working in the safety side with all the large trucking companies out there, doing what you do, not with the podcasts, obviously, but as a safety consultant, that's where we met, and now I've been in the insurance side of things on the risk specialist here for the past 4 years.
Yeah, we first met when I was working for Old Republic. I was doing the insurance reviews, and you were, What was it, Million Mile Safety? What was the name of the company?
Million Mile Safety Consulting. Yep, that's correct.
Yeah, so it's kind of neat.
We've reversed roles.
Yeah. And I don't think podcasts were nearly as popular back when you were doing the consulting thing, or else maybe you would have had a podcast.
Never heard of them, and I've always considered myself to have that face for radio. So it's not something that I ever thought that I would be doing, but it's fun. I'm glad to be here and to help you out.
Well, hey, this has been a long time in the making. You were invited on the show early in my podcasting days, and we just couldn't get it to work. So I'm excited now to finally get you on the show. And we're going to be talking about, in general terms at least, your role working for an insurance company and how it impacts trucking companies. So, and we were, off camera having the discussion as to what is it we call what you do. And you like to call it a what?
I personally like to call it a risk review. And, like I was saying before, it's, I've been on the other side of the desk for many years as well. So I've had the phone calls, for an insurance audit or, the safety inspection. I just like to, I like to phrase it as a risk review. It's the way I like to approach it with the clients. I, I'm not there to specifically audit, you go in and you look at certain parameters and stuff like that, but I'll leave the audits to the government.
Yeah, and I mean, whether we call it an audit, a review, the one thing I wish all trucking companies, no matter who they're insured with, whether it's captives or regular market like Aviva, is I wish the trucking company would take these visits from the safety people a hell of a lot more, put a lot more importance on it.
I'm seeing it. Just because of the idea for this topic for today was, when I got into this 4 years ago, it was not seen, at least out here in the West, it wasn't seen as something that was going to be very positive. It was very fearful. People were always on edge when I was coming up to visit them. And then when you leave, they're happy. You've given them something, you've worked with them. And, working with Aviva, the one thing I've heard from day one working here is making the experience for the client, one of the best things that you could possibly do. And so I honestly, seriously try to go in with that objective every single time. I wake up and, if I know I'm going to be visiting with a client that day, whether it be, virtually, as it has been for the past year, or whether I'm going to be with you in person, I want to give you something. I want to give you something back that I was given so many years ago. I just want to make sure that when I leave there, that you have, you've been given a service that will make you a better place if you choose to use it.
Yeah, I mean, one of the beauties of your role, and especially with your past experience of being a safety consultant and a safety person working for different companies, is you've got a lot of experience, as the gray hair in both of our beards might suggest, right? And I know when I was with OR, I used to see 60 clients a year plus pre-quotes. So in almost every client and almost every trucking company does something positive and different. And so with that experience, I could bring that in and make suggestions to different trucking companies that I think were valid. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, I can go see three companies that do the exact same thing. In the saturated market that transportation is, we can go in and see somebody that does the exact same thing, but because of the culture, ownership, the different safety people, they may manage it just a little bit differently. And so, when I go in there, I try to look for everything that is positive. If I can find what you're doing that is good and that's right, you have something to anchor on, so that when you do find the stuff that they need help with, you've got a bigger picture of what the company does to help them out and to know which way they're going to navigate. Nothing like giving a recommendation to a company that is not going to take it, or they're not going to use it because they don't believe in it. So if you can find, what the company truly believes in and where their heart is, then you can work with them and try to give them, it could be that same piece of advice that you've given 300 times, but you might have to deliver it just a little bit differently to meet their needs.
Yeah, always I think you've got to customize your suggestions. There's nothing worse than making recommendations and knowing full well they're falling on deaf ears. And I would agree with you that you're not doing your job well if that's the situation, unless they are just one of those terrible companies who really don't give about safety.
I'm going to say, to be honest, I have not had that. And I guess I'm going to, raise the hand and applaud the underwriters, with Aviva, because I'm not going out and seeing those. I'm going out and seeing companies that are, even if they're struggling in a certain area, they've still got a really good core. They've got, a good base to them, which you could work with. They may have had, certain issues in one area, but they're really good in another. So, it's, you can plug and play with a lot of it. And so I'm not seeing in my world anyways, I'm not seeing a really, I'm not seeing a lot of bad carriers out there. I'm seeing a lot of stress.
Stress. What are they stressed about? What's a common item?
Right now, COVID, economy, and especially out here in the western side. In my role here, I do inspections across Canada. So I will go from Newfoundland to the Pacific Ocean doing inspections. So I'm not just based here in Alberta. And so, but when you do come out into this market, I mean, the markets are very different as you go across the country when it comes to transportation, even though primarily it's the same idea. You pick up something from, spot A, you take it to spot B. But the markets are very different. The stress out here in the western side of the province, say from Manitoba over, just the economy, the general, it has never bounced back from, basically 2015 on, right? So, there's definitely a lot of stress. There's, people aren't doing things for the same rates they were doing once before. So there's been a lot of maneuvering, trying to figure out how they're going to make everything work.
Yeah, I think obviously the downturn in oil has affected Western Canada much more than the downturn of oil in Ontario here. I honestly forget about it, but part of that is
$1.46 for fuel out here right now, which is absolutely unheard of in Alberta.
Hey, it's $1, and I don't know the price exactly. I drive an electric now, but it's $1.30 something here in Ontario. I think it was $1.37 if I remember. So
it was when I moved from Ontario and I came back here, and I guess I got a little bit spoiled with the, I've seen it as low back into the 80s, and at 95 we were getting excited. So, but now that it's up into the the $1.40 mark, but we don't, at the Calgary market, I don't think we commute as much as say what you guys do down in Ontario from, the size of the GTA.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand, quite honestly, and this is way off topic. Why in the hell a price of a liter of gasoline is so different across the country? Like it comes out of the ground.
Why it's so different across the street?
Well, that's true. Look at Costco. Is always 2 or 3, or appears to be 2 or 3 cents below everybody else in the market. And it's funny here in Southern Ontario, the closer you get to the U.S. border, the cheaper the fuel seems to be too.
Yeah. Well, and it varies around here quite often, and it depends honestly on transportation and everything else like that too, right? So, but you're right. We are the heart of the market is oil and gas for Alberta. And Saskatchewan primarily for northern parts and stuff like that. And it has taken a big hit. It's filtered out a lot of companies. It's filtered out a lot of people,
Yeah, there's been just unprecedented change, I think, in Western Canada ever since. I mean, oil was less than $50 a barrel. I forget what it fell down to, but, and I'm not sure it's bounced back. And yet, if it hasn't bounced back, why in the hell is gasoline at $1.40?
I try, the one thing I can say out of doing all this when, during COVID is I didn't honestly, and it's something that I'm bringing out to the market when I'm coming to see the clients now as well, is I didn't think COVID really affected me. Out here in Alberta, we did pretty good for the fact that we didn't have a lot of shutdowns. We could basically go out and do what we wanted to do. We didn't have the big shutdowns like what happened in Ontario. So I didn't think that it really affected me as much as it did, but it come this winter time, we had the last shutdown and it really did. It was one of those things that just absolutely, destroyed me really. I mean, I was, you're stuck at home, your wife is working in the next office, and one of the worst things is having, everybody at home all at once. You don't get that space. So it's one of the things I'm starting to talk about with, clients when I'm out there too, is to see how the stress and the fatigue and everything from COVID has started to affect the drivers. And, that's a very good response across the country as well.
Well, for drivers, it's a huge responsibility, especially for those who cross border, because they're going down into different areas of the states where they may or may not care about COVID because certain areas just seem to ignore it. And then they've got to come home and protect their family. Like, what a responsibility.
And it's hard because we're fighting something you can't see. So, all of a sudden we were able to stand and, be at a concert with one another or root at a baseball game. And, now we have to be fearful of the person you're standing beside, including family members, right? So it's been really quite the adjustment. And I know my wife is actually coming to Ontario to visit her family at the end of this month. And even though Alberta is doing really well now, we're open. We're completely open for business. We've had the Calgary Stampede, although at a reduced rate. But it still happened, and it was good to see people out. You're seeing people out and about now, and I'm out seeing clients, so which is also really good. And she's going to be coming back, but there's still fear that we don't want to take anything back to back to mom and dad type thing, right? So we're still being pretty due diligent in what we're doing.
Yeah, it's I don't know. This whole thing has been certainly unprecedented in our lifetime. I've never lived through anything like this before, and quite honestly, I could skip it if it ever came by it next time.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I'm good with it. I think I've learned my lesson in this.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, the ones who I feel the most sorry for are the 20-somethings or the older teenagers, because they've lost 18 months or a year of socializing. And this is, when I was that age, it was a big time to develop a personality and become social.
Mm-hmm.
Way off topic. We're not talking about trucking.
Well, no, and it kind of comes into this because talking about drivers, I'm also starting to see here that there's probably a bigger shortage of drivers from what I'm talking to the clients and stuff like that now too, where a lot of it appears, and I don't have anything anecdotal or data driven to prove this, but it seems that some of the older guys have left and maybe not wanted to come back into the industry. From up north in the oil patch all the way out east, there seems to be a very heavy weight on driver shortage now again. And I was quite surprised by that throughout COVID.
Yeah, I really think that there has been a driver shortage. It's something that they've talked about for, 20 years? As long as I can remember. I do think it is worsening. I agree with you that there have been some of the older drivers, like drivers of my age especially, who just said, to hell with this, I don't need this aggravation anymore. Mm-hmm. And of course, I don't think we're doing a great job of attracting young people. So I do think, go ahead.
No, that's a hard one. It's one of those things that it can be debated because of the way that the training is from to the marketing of the actual companies and what they get, and it's always been really hard too, because a lot of the companies, or they'll put out these attractions that you can make this kind of money, and the only problem is the money comes with a lot of you got to give a lot up to get that money. You're going to be on the road, you're going to be away from your family. There's a lot of things that aren't explained in the very beginning when drivers get into this. It's hard to be insured when you're new. It's hard to get a job when you're brand new, and you're spending a lot of money to get into the industry, and there's not really a lot of support industry driven, and that has been from the day I started.
Yeah. Now, you brought up a subject that I want to address quickly. What is trucking insurance for the newly licensed driver? Is it possible, because you've heard it, or as a newly licensed driver, I'm sure they hear it, my insurance company won't allow me to hire you. Is that a true statement?
Yeah, I think it can be. It's obviously there's, with us, it's going to be, it's a business decision. It's strictly within the companies. I mean, some companies will work with due diligence a lot better than others. Some companies, and this is going forward too, where I think a lot of companies are going to have to implement a better training program into their system, and so that they have better onboarding procedures and stuff like that for drivers moving forward. Those are one of the bigger things, that I look at now. And I come from the training background. Training is it's very near and dear to my heart for me. I think it was something that I missed when I was coming into it. And, I can remember, being stuck on a mountainside and chaining up for the very first time completely by myself with absolutely nobody around, and I'd never been shown anything. And, that's a rough way to learn. And it wasn't a good way to learn either. I mean, we'll just say I had some lucky moments behind me back in those days. But the training nowadays, I think is going to have to be, it's going to be one of those items that the companies are going to have to really take a good look at, because it's if they want to bring on, the guys with lesser experience or the newer people or anything else like that, it's going to really rely on the kind of onboarding and training that they do have. So
Right.
It's not a black and white answer. And again, it's always going to be something that an underwriter is going to have to make their final decision on. And it's never something that I do. But that being said, it's, when I go in, I do try to structure and work with the company on the training side of things when it comes to that.
But if I'm a trucking company and I want to hire new drivers or a new driver, there is a way to do it in most cases. Is that a true statement?
I think there is. And again, it's gonna all come to you, the company. You're gonna have to be one of those companies that are gonna be good, that has a good loss record. You're gonna have to be a company that's got a good culture and a good training program, right? I mean, you're gonna have to have a lot of things in place for that to work. But I would never, it's like anything in business. I would never say no to anything. It's just certain business decisions that would have to be made. That's all.
Yeah. So if I'm a newly licensed driver, it may be more difficult for me to find a job, but there are jobs out there, and the insurance industry isn't the impediment to getting that job. You've got to work for a company that's probably larger and got some, as you said, training involved.
Yeah, it's going to be harder for the mom and pops to do such a thing and stuff like that, but it's also hard for them to find people with good experience. But if you're going to be a brand new guy now, I probably would suggest that you would look towards the very large companies and stuff that have their they got their big onboarding programs that come into place. They've got really good training, and they've got people who can mentor them along the way and progressively bring them up to speed and get them into the market and stuff like that. The smaller ones, it's obvious it's going to be hard because the resources and that are needed for something like that are probably not going to be there. I shouldn't say that they won't be, because there are some that they really believe in that, right? So again, it's going to start from the top down. It's part of the culture. And it's the way that the company looks at safety and the way that the company delivers their safety program.
Now, I'm going to say something from 7 years ago when I was with Old Republic, and I have no idea, for anybody listening, I got no idea if this is still the policies. But, when I worked at Old Republic, it was you had to be a fleet, first of all, in order to bring somebody new on. you had to get your finishing program approved by the Old Republic Safety Department, and it was no more than 10% of all your drivers. So it was a small amount, but if you look at all the trucking companies in the world, damn, that's a lot of new people that could come on board if every trucking company hired one, but did it the right way.
And that seems to be more of an industry standard. I mean, I could say that again, I wouldn't say that that would be permissible for everybody, but for those that are good, that's probably something that you could be looking at down the road. Sure, that seems to be like an industry standard.
Yeah, and anyways, I just want to say the impediment is not the insurance industry as it's often heard by that new person.
Well, I mean, we're not out there to stifle business, that's for sure. And that is one of the funny things when you're going out to see somebody is they're like, and I've heard it all. You're coming out to cancel our insurance, or you're coming out to take things away, or you're coming out to make sure that you're gonna, bump everything up. And I mean, to be honest, that would be, really poor business. I think, anyways, personally. If we can go out and help somebody honestly to minimize or to put something in place to help minimize a risk, that's our goal, right? I mean, it really truly is. And the only thing I can say to this is, the more that the underwriter gets to honestly see of that company, the better they can honestly write that company. And I feel, and I've seen that has been, it's a better, it's better business between us and that company, right? So it's the more they know, the better they are. And, it's not that, the companies are hiding anything or a broker didn't say something or whatever. It's just basically, when they all meet in the middle or meet the first time, it's paperwork that flows back and forth and some conversations and stuff like that. When I come out, I actually get to visualize it. I actually get to take pictures and take it back. And in a lot of times that it just helps. It really, truly does help. And it gives the client, I think, a better footing with us, and it's just a much better relationship in the end.
Yeah, it's critical, I think, that the insurance industry understands what they're insuring. So if you had, we got to wrap this up. If you had a piece of advice for trucking companies regarding their safety review, as you call it, what would that be?
Be open to it. Be willing to get engaged. Be very engaged in the conversation. Bring your questions. That's what we're for. And if we don't have the answer, because we're not perfect by any means, but if we don't have the answers, we've got a pretty good, network of people that we can reach out to get those answers, right? We get to see so many different clients throughout the year. We get to learn things as well, from other clients. And, maybe we can, bring you a piece of advice that helped over here that, something that you would never have thought of. So I just suggest to be very open to it. Be prepared. There are items that, of course, we're going to want to see. And it is a little bit frustrating when you go in and you're going to review and there's nothing to review. And it just takes a little bit more time, and that adds the pressure. But just go in with the right attitude that you're going to come out of this with something, and hopefully you will. And if I have anything to do with it, I try to make sure that I bring that out. But be open to it, come into it with a very positive mind, and hopefully in the end you'll leave with something very positive.
Yeah, I think you've hit it right on the head. You've got to look forward to it because you're going to learn something. And that's the bottom line.
As a safety guy, I will say that there was one particular, now I had a few of us that would come in to visit me over the years, but there was one specific person that came in, and it was almost like he shone the light, and he introduced me to the idea of being quite open to and receptive to what the insurance company could actually bring you. And, it took the big evil veil away, I guess, for a lot of people. And, that was even The owner of the company was not so receptive, but I mean, I became very receptive to it. And I built a lot of the safety program around a lot of the ideas that were given, and it shone a lot of light in different areas, and it opened up a lot of doors, and it brought our accident rate down. It brought our safety department to the forefront, right? And it made us a better company in the end at that particular time. And I've embraced that ever since. So if you can embrace it and you can go with it, recommendations are not bad, right? Like that is one thing I want to stress. A recommendation is not a bad thing. It usually means that we're working together to get you, to a better spot.
And in closing, you hit one of the things that clients forget about. The best way to control your insurance is to reduce your crashes. And if your recommendations can assist in reducing crashes, that's a damn good thing.
Yeah. And you know what? Today we're in the world where a lot of things are changing. Obviously, with ELDs on the federal side, telematics are taking a big role in things. And there's just a lot of change that's coming into the industry, and there's a lot of different ways for us to work with things. And it's just really starting down at the basics. And some things have never changed, and that's the human element involved with moving a vehicle, right? And when you just get into the basics and you can work with those, there's a lot that you can do to reduce your crashes, to put controls in place that are not going to stop the company from, earning on the bottom line.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. It's a great way to end this. Andrew Stacey of Aviva Insurance, thanks so much for coming out to the Doghouse. Hey, it was great.
I totally appreciate it, and hope we can do it again.
I hope you loved the show as much as I did. Please leave us a like, a thumbs up, a review, a comment, a rating if it is in your heart. Thank you so much. And I do really appreciate your time. And join us again next week for another exciting interview.